Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us for tonight's edition of HR Mentorship Series, especially to the guys. If you're on this call, you're a strong man, including our facilitator. Why do I say so? You are here learning data and analytics for HR decision making. At the same time, Champions League match is about to start. And at the same time, Super Eagles of Nigeria is playing. But
Really?
they are in their career. This is our career. And any opportunity to enhance our career, we always embrace it. Tonight, we'll be looking at the topic harnessing data and analytics for HR decision making. My name is Oluyemi Adeosun, and I am happy and glad that I'm not the facilitator. I'm just the person to introduce and welcome the facilitator. It's a professional colleague, friend, and brother. His name is Sadiq Yusuf, and is excited to be our trainer for today. Ladies and gentlemen, he works and plies his trade with the Brown Consulting. He is a Microsoft certified trainer, Microsoft certified Power BI data analyst, Microsoft certified Power Platform app maker, Microsoft certified platform fundamentals. He has trained clients, including but not limited to Central Bank of Nigeria, FCMB, MTN, IHS, Seplat Energy, NDIC, AB InBev, and lots more. He has trained successfully with evidence over 4,000 top executives from diverse industries. And some of the tools he has taught these executives include Microsoft Office 365, advanced presentation skills, advanced Excel, Power BI, Power Query, DAX, Power Apps, Power Automate, Power Virtual Agent, mastering data for information and productivity. Till date, he has over 6,635 hours of training, instructional design, course development, and consulting experience. Of course, hopefully we had another 1 or 2 hours today to this already super rich, super generous experience. With pleasure and excitement, please, let's welcome Sadiq Yusuf as he takes us through this journey experience on leveraging HR data and analytics for decision making. You have the floor, sir. Thank you for obliging us with your presence and expertise. You are welcome, sir.
All right. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure being here amongst the movers and shakers of the industry. So thank you for having me, everyone. So good evening once again, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are joining us from across the globe. My name is Sadiq Yusuf. I currently lead the training and the consulting team at D. Brown Consulting. So I welcome you all to this interesting webinar where we'll be looking at how we can use data to harness information and also what improve decision making as HR practitioners. And there's a normal saying that says, if you cannot measure it, you can't prove it. So whatever we want. So as HR, we are always found between people and the management. So our employer always put us in between. Most times the management drag us and say, okay, you are too people centric, and the people as well, they drag us saying that we are always after the management. We are not after the well-being of the people. So I can only imagine what we face on a daily basis. So you're welcome to this session, everyone. And in this session, we're going to be looking at how we can demystify HR and how we can make our work easier by leveraging data and also analytics. And so before I move fully into the session, and so let's look at the outline that we're going to be considering today. Is we'll look at analytics itself. What are the types of analytics that we have? And then we'll look at why does people analytics, analyzing people's data, why does it matter to the business, and what is the impact of this on HR analytics? So the business impact of HR analytics on business itself. Then we look at what are the different metrics that matters when it comes to HR and HR analytics. We have different aspects of HR. So and we look at what are the few metrics that we can actually lay our hands on. Then we talked about it. Then lastly, we then go into analytics of few data that we currently have. So before I go fully into this, I have a survey that I would like to deploy to all of us. So one of is going to be, so if time permits me, I'm going to be analyzing 2 different data sets. We'll see how this works and how we can also imbibe this culture and how we can leverage on this to improve our analytics and what we do. So at your spare time, you can just click on the link that I just dropped in the chat and just fill up the survey. So it's just a demo survey. It's not for any purpose. It's for the purpose of this class alone. So thank you and welcome to the session. All right, so like I said, we'll be looking at what is data and what is analytics, right? What is analytics? When we talk about analytics, is basically what we're trying to making sense. We're trying to making sense of our data. So across the group, we have data everywhere, littered everywhere, so right from our doorstep, from how we commute to and fro and different locations, and we looked at we generate data. But the major challenge here is that we have limited there's a skill gap between data and analytics itself. So we have data littered everywhere, but how do we then make sense of this data? So few people have actually have this the skill that is that's required for us to make sense of this. Right. So basically we have 4 types of data itself, the type of analytics that we can do on our data. Right. So let's look at the first one and we quickly talked about it and we looked at so the first types of analytics that we have is what we call the descriptive analytics. I want to say the descriptive analytics, what does it talk about? It's basically looking at what has happened. What's that historical, what has happened in the past. So what is currently happening in the business. And the purpose of doing the descriptive analytics is to summarize historical data and also identify trend in the business. So as HR practitioners, we deal majorly with people's data. We want to look at the trend of hiring people, of people leaving the organization, how are people leaving the organization, what kind of we're looking at performance, we're looking at performance of people on the job, we're looking at job satisfaction itself, we are looking at different data that has to do with people, all right, to make sure that we make the best decision for people and to make the best decision that actually suits the business, and also it is people-centric as well. So when we're doing descriptive analysis, example of kind of analysis that we can do in terms of descriptive is looking at the head count, looking at like how many people, looking at the different departments, what are the head counts in the department, or looking at the region as a whole. So how many people do we have? What is our workforce? What's the strength of our workforce across the different region? Or we also want to look at the turnover of our employee. So what is employee turnover last year comparing to this year? And like I see, as it is said, that when there's no comparison and the business is bent on not growing, we need to compare what we are doing and how we are doing it. So also we look at the diversity. Funny enough, in some organizations, you just find out that knowingly or unknowingly, you just find out that we are recruiting a certain set of people. It's only when you get for example, in my organization before now, we just say, okay, we are like, when you say, you, where are you from? Ibadan. You, where are you from? Ibadan. This, for one reason or the other, people just have a roots tied to a particular place, right? So we try to look at what is the diversity of our workforce, to be sure we are not concentrating on one space, or even if we have major, if our workforce is actually concentrated on one space, let's look at what are the traits that these people have that actually make them, that distinguish them from others. And also we also look at what are the training programs, that we can also give out to what that we have actually done in the past, and what is the impact of this. All these form the basis of what we call the descriptive analysis. Is basically looking at what has happened in the business, and it gives us insight and baseline as to what into understanding, having an understanding of how the business itself works. So that is descriptive analysis. Then we then talk about the second type of analytics, which we call the what? The diagnostic analysis. When I'm explaining this, I actually love using an example of medical practitioners or going to the hospital. All right. So descriptive is just like when you go to the hospital and before anything can be done on you, the doctor or the nurses involved try to get an understanding of what has happened, what is the complaint that you have. Oh, I have fever. Oh, I have headache. Oh, I have a running temperature. That is descriptive. They're telling us what has happened in the past, the historical. Then from there now, we then diagnose you of what exactly is going on. Then we can say, okay, you need to run some laboratory tests, right? So that is diagnostic analysis to know why did this thing happen. Why did this thing happen? We see people what? Living. So why are people living? We want to know the causes of what is currently going on. So the diagnostic analysis is basically talking about the causative effect of what is going on. But for example, is when you're analyzing why is turnover increasing? So what is it that we are doing that is making people leave? What is it that we are doing that is making what our employee falling sick at every now and then? You just hear people what reporting sick. So we want to know what is going on, right? And also maybe in terms of engagement, are people being engaged? Now, what is the reason why if people are if they are not engaged, what is the reason for this low engagement? And if people are over engaged, also you want to know what is the cause of this. You want to compare performance across different teams and across management types. So all these are what they help us to understand the reason why something has happened. And this actually helped us. The value it brings to the business that it helps to provide insight into the pattern, and also we get to understand the root cause rather than treating something just at the surface. We get to the root cause of that, what is currently going on, and can nip it in the bud before it becomes something that will be blown out of proportion. So that is what the diagnostic analysis. Now let's quickly talk about the predictive, which is the third type, the predictive analysis. Now that we've already understood what is going on in the business, that people are living, right? Now, then we've talked about the diagnostic. What is the reason why people are leaving? Or we're looking at, okay, why do we have people wanting to join the organization? Because it's always in both ways, right? What is it that we are doing well so that we can improve it, right? So why are people leaving? Then once we understand the root cause factor now, with the root causes now, we can then predict based on historical. We can do a predictive analysis and say what, if this trend should continue, this is what could happen. Right? This is what could happen. For example, we have people leaving due to maybe Japa syndrome, due to why people leaving. It might even be due to the pay. Right? It might be due to the working environment. It might be due to the management styles. Right? So we then want to predict if things should continue this way, what could happen in the future. So we're trying to predicting what is the risk of people of this trend continue, so that we can then we can quickly, people know most times when people don't understand what will be the consequence of their action, something might not change. So we're trying to estimate the risk involved, or we're trying to looking at the kind of work we currently have. So why are people burnt out? We are trying to understand it. Is we have too much work, we have few people doing too many, then predictive is saying, okay, if nothing is done, probably we need to bring in people into the business. So predictive saying if nothing is done, then A, B, and C might be the consequence, right? So this actually helps the business or the management to be more proactive rather than being reactive. So we plan ahead of time. So that is what predictive analytics does. And lastly, before I move on to the next thing, is the prescriptive. Now that we've known what has happened, we've identified the reason why it happened, and we've seen we've forecasted into the future to say, okay, this is what could happen. if nothing is done. We can then what? Prescribe, okay, what is it that we need to do to forestall this from happening? So we need to suggest what, when we suggest intervention to refrain people from leaving, to refrain what, to reduce drastically or the rate of burnout. So this actually helps the business in making a supportive decision that can really what improve our growth. Right now, now let's now talk about why people analytics actually matter. Why do we need to analyze people data? What benefit is it to the business when we analyze people data? As an HR practitioners, we have different challenges facing the HR. For example, we have, like I said, the turnover rate, or even people have poor engagement or retention. Find out when people come in, it doesn't take time, they're already exiting again. Right? Different challenges, or people are complaining of limited visibility into work trends. Right? So there are different challenges. Right? So what are the things that can be done? Why do people analytics actually matter? Right? So in this case, so let's look at what the major reason why people analytics or analyzing people data, why it actually matter. Right? So now let's talk about it. Firstly is people analytics or analyzing people data really matters when we need to, it helps because it helps us to drive informed decision making. And we need to align people analytics to business goal. Why? Because so that HR is not just operational, but they will be strategic in aligning with business goal. What are the different business goals that we have? Let's say, for instance, now a business is saying, okay, we are actually looking at, okay, so the problem is we're having high employee turnover. What can then HR can then align with to say, okay, since we have a high turnover rate, what can be done? So they are now they are working towards achieving how can we retain our workforce? What are the things that needs to be done to retain the workforce? So all these are so all the businesses saying, okay, we want to expand. We are looking at expanding. So HR can then start practicing, okay, can start planning of workforce. We can start increasing, start gearing their planning towards increment of the workforce. Or the business is looking at, okay, we are trying to want to be innovative. Our goal is to be innovative this year. So HR can then start planning towards learning and develop. They can invest heavily, can advise management to invest heavily into learning and development. So as HR practitioners, aligning with business goal actually helps us to make informed decision so that we can then advise the management accordingly. And secondly is that we are now going to be linking people's strategy to meet the business goal. So what are the things that we do? We need to, so in some cases, the business goal, so when we look at the business goal, it might not even need us to bring in more people. It might just need to train those that we currently have so that they can be more productive, right? So these are the ways by HR can align with business goal. And lastly is that it can also help us to improve efficiency. Improve efficiency by training our staff. We find out that what normally takes them 20 minutes or 3 hours to do, by training them, they will now spend lesser time in doing it, and also improve employee satisfaction. So different satisfied employee can also be satisfied in terms of remuneration, the working condition, and so on. So those are the major reasons why we need to align. If not, HR is just going to be working on its own, and the goal of it will not be tied to the business goal. So these are the reasons why we then need to align HR analytics to business. So we know what kind of people data are we analyzing, and to what end are we doing this. And in terms of analyzing people's data, what are the key things that we actually looked out for in analyzing people data? So the first thing, one of the things that we looked at for is productivity. So workforce productivity, that is, we are trying to look at the employee output. What is the output or as per employee? Here we can, under this we can actually decide to measure the salary efficiency ratio, which actually helps us to measure how well we are investing into our staff salary, their welfare. Or we also try to compare, okay, this is what we are currently doing as compared to what our peer in the industry are doing, right? Also, we can also look at in this category, look at what the engagement performance, how well are the employees being engaged? Do we just have a workforce that is redundant? That's nothing to do. So field work, we have the work that is meant for just 2 people, we are hiring like 5, 10 people into that department. So we look at the engagement. So we then try to analyze what is the relationship or what's the correlation between people's how well our staff are being engaged and their performance. So what is the relationship? So we try to understand that, or we try to measure the staff level, like I said earlier on, trying to understand the staff level, right? Another one is for us to look at the talent acquisition. How well are we acquiring? What is the efficiency of bringing people into the business? Here we're trying to look at, okay, how long does it take us to fill a vacant space? Or what from the different hiring channel that we have, which one is the most effective? And also we're trying to reducing time, which channel helps us to reduce time that is effective in such a way that in time we are able to fill in a vacant space, and also in terms of cost as well, and also what are the quality of people that we are hiring in this channel. So all these are the things that we look at when we're looking at the talent acquisition efficiency. Then let's talk about the employee retention itself, which is very, very important, because now most organizations are actually battling the pandemic of people, the Japa syndrome itself, people leaving. You see people coming. In fact, recently when I was facilitating my last HR analytics session that I facilitated, that we have a training in our facility, then I got to know that people actually abscond from work. That was the first time I heard of that. People, adults that got an offer, get a job, and eventually just one day they disappear. You don't see them again. So it's actually it was surprising to me. And these are the things that the HR practitioners actually what they battle with. So we're looking at what are the annual. So with a kind of how often do we retain our talents now? How long, on an average, how long does the people spend in the organization? In some organization, you find out that we get to an organization and hear people saying, okay, I spent 20 years here, 16 years here. They spend quite a number of time. Compared to other organizations, get the highest you have seen is just 4 years. Others are, okay, 2 months, 2 years, 3 years. So we look at that. What are the key metrics that we can look at? What are the things that causes this? So how are people living? Voluntarily or involuntarily, or even people are absconding from duty. So we looked at all those things, and we can also the metric that we can also consider under what analytics is talking. HR analytics is talking about the employee engagement. I've seen people saying they're leaving a job not because of the pay, because in this generation just about pay people, but most times it's not really the pay, not the thing. What people say, someone told me and said, what the reason why I'm actually going is not because the culture here is good, the pay is fantastic, but I am underutilized. I'm not well engaged. This is not what I want to do. So people would go for different reasons. So we want to try to we try to link the engagement, how are people being engaged, and their engagement to their performance. All right. Also, because of time, let's look at the diversity and inclusion I talked about earlier on. Is how well are we mixing people of different culture? Are we just centered on just hiring one set of people, just same set of people, or we're just focused, we are hiring, and there's actually power in diversity when we pick people from different regions, because they are coming from different background and lives, they're trying to the trends to is the business tend to thrive more because they come with different ideas. right? So we're looking at what's the diversity ratio. So what's the ratio of diversity across the different departments or across the different teams, and how does this actually foster innovation and better decision making, and also for a long time, what is the impact of this on the business. Now, under these different categories, now there are different things that we looked at. So let's look at the workforce productivities. When you're looking at the workforce productivity, we're trying in terms of revenue, we can say, okay, what is the total revenue per employee? Profit, what is the total profit that we're making? At we have a profit. Now, when we break it down as to the different employees that we have, you can actually look at profit per employee, what is the salary efficiency ratio, what's the overtime productivity. So their performance rating, we're looking at their overtime hours, right? And work utilization rate. You check people, how are people being utilized in a week? You're meant to spend so number of hours, let's say 40 hours, and let's see how many hours did you actually use in working. So how well are people being utilized? And we looked at the labor cost per employee, the cost of absenteeism. Yes, people who for no reason just did not show up at work. It has effect, it has adverse impact on the business. So because when we need to factor in what are the different things. This person does not take leave just for no reason, just did not show up, and come up the following day or 2 days after with flimsy excuses. What is the impact of this on the business? These are the key things that we can actually measure. Or what is the average length of service? Yes, we look at what average length of service, like how long do people stay in the business, or HR to employee ratio, like looking at the total number of employees that we have, what is number of people in HR compared to the ratio of people in HR managing the total workforce, right? So that's HR to employee ratio. Or we're even looking at employee promoters score. So these are the key. When we're talking about productivities, these are some of the most important tools that we need to that we might also actually want to consider when talking about productivity of our workforce. Now, talking about the talent acquisition itself, what are the key metrics that we measure on this category? We talk about time to hire. How long does it take us from the time that we post this job and to the time that we're able to fill up the position? How long was that, right? Because this has effect on the business, right? Business expense. Also, we have the cost per hire. How much does it cost us to hire people? And also, what is the quality of our hire in terms of we're looking at the performance, right, compared to the performance of those who are already in the business, or the effectiveness of our hiring source. What are the different channels that we are using in hiring people, and how effective are these sources of hiring people, and what are even the quality of people that we are getting from the different hiring source. Or we want to look at the first year resignation rate. So what number of the populace do we that come in and will leave within 1 year? We want to look at that. Or first year turnover rate. That's those are the employee who left within 1 year compared to the number of recruits. Right, the first year resignation is looking at those who left compared to the total number of employees, but first year turnover is looking at those number of people that live within 1 year of joining the business as compared to the total number of people that we brought in the last 1 year. What's our selection ratio? Or we look at the application completion ratio, right? Also the gender diversity and inclusion. So what's the ratio of men to women in the business? So all these are under what we call the talent acquisition. These are the different metrics that we looked at. We have a lot of them actually. So I just decided to bring us some few of them. And we also have the employee retention and also attrition rate. Here, we're trying to look at looking at employee turnover. So the number of people who leave compared to the total number of employees that we have. So what is the turnover rate? So also under turnover, we have the voluntary turnover and the involuntary. So we are trying to check that. Also retention rate as well. Trying to how well are we retaining our talents? Are we just talent builders? And once these people get the right skills, they move, right? We're looking at how well are we retaining our talent, or is it our culture? So we need to look at different things there. So new hire retention rate, how well are we retaining the people that are just joining us, the new hire, and the promotion rates. Different things can be responsible for people leaving. Promotion is one of them. When people are stagnant, there's no clear-cut route to being promoted. They're just there. So people can decide to what? To find the exit. And also the time until on an average, how long do people stay on one role or on one position or in a level before they are being promoted? So also they offer acceptance rate. All these and many more are the different metrics that we can actually consider when trying to analyze business data in order to align with when we are trying to analyze people data in order to make it align with the business goal. Now, let's just go into doing enough of talk. So let's go into building something. So here, I have a case study that we're going to be looking at right now. Let me bring it up here. All right. Now, again, remember earlier we talked about how here what matters is we need to align HR goal with the business goal, HR with business goal, so that we are making HR is not just operational, they are being strategic about whatever they are, or we are, let's say we now, let me say we now. Yeah, but we are being strategic about what we are doing. Now we have a case study at hand right now. So there's an email from the MD CEO to the head of HR saying that we are currently preparing for a board review meeting next week, saying, right? And then the HR team has been asked to come up with a report of our talent management. So we are asked to come up with a report of talent management, right? As the HR analyst that you are, so you are asked you have been tasked with exploring our HR database and extracting some insights that we can present to the management, right? That can help the management to make some strategic decision that will lead into the next financial year. And in some of this, you'll be given a guideline as okay, these are the things that we are trying to look at for. We're looking at what executive management will be most interested in having visibility on the following KPIs. We want to know what is the total staff, what's our staff strength, right? And from this staff strength, what is the gender distribution? How many? So what's the distribution of our gender? And so yes, in terms of the people that we have here, so the visa status of our employee. So we want to know those it would be nice to visualize those who are employee who require assistance with their visa. So we know what our plan will be for the next financial year, and what percentage of our workforce we need visa. We need us to help them with the visa. Also, what is the aging workforce analysis? That is, what percentage of our workforce are close to retirement? And also, we are looking at what is the current age, the age period of our all staff, right? We're looking at the age of work staff, and which of our hiring sources are the most effective, and which one should we discontinue? And many more things that we can actually get from here. Also, lastly is how has our hiring trended? Our hiring, how has it trended over time? And is there any particular insight that we can get from this? So this is some of the things that the business might require from us. So we just need to do is leveraging the business data, we can answer all of these questions. And in you answering business questions, there are certain things that actually you need to ask yourself, right? So number one is one of the things that we need to understand is that the request, what I'm being asked to do, is it well understood by me? So I need to be sure that I totally get what is required of me. All right. And another thing you also need to check is that now that I understand what is required of me, is the data that I need to answer this whole question, is it available? Is it available? And is it accessible? If it is available, do I have access to it? And in some cases too, the data might not be available, but is there an alternative data, or is that an alternative data where I can derive this whole thing from? So a derivative, do I have access to all those things. So those are the things that you need to what to ask yourself, and before you go into any analysis. And when you're analyzing the data, what kind of insight am I bringing out? So what kind of calculation, what kind of metrics, what kind of aggregation am I doing? Right? Am I finding an average, total sum, and so on like that, right? You need to look at that, and you need to look at what is the best chart to visualize what, right? So let's take a quick glance on the kind of data that we currently have here. And the data is saying what? We have data that's talking about what? We have the list of our employee name, right? We have the ID of the employee, we have the employee salary. This is the salary, the position that they hold, their states of origin there. We have the date of birth of each of the employee. What is their sex? This is their gender, right? We have male, female, and like. And you can also audit what we have in each column and what is what. You can see what we have here. What is the marital status of our employee? Single, are they single? Married, divorced, separated, widowed, because this whole thing can actually affect what performance, right? So when you're not happy from where you're coming from, there's no way it's not going to what translate into the your performance on the job. Or we're looking at what is their race, looking at date of hire. When did these people actually join the business? Also, you also want to look at the the department where they are working from. These are the people that they are working under, and this is how we brought them in. Right, these people came in through this These are the different recruitment sources that we have. We have We have Career Build, Job Fair, Google Search, LinkedIn, and so on, lots more. So these are the different ways by which we recruit people, and this is the age of our workforce, right? So take a very good look at the data, and then from there you can actually answer. Now, one thing that actually prompted my head is saying, and there's part of the question that says, what percentage, or let me zoom in so you see my screen very well, is saying what? The aging workforce analysis, what percentage of our employees are close to retirement, so that we can plan ahead. All right, so what percentage of our employees are close to retirement? Now, how do we determine those who are close to retirement? So please let me engage. So now, please let's type in the chat. What is the currently? What is the retirement age of in Nigeria now? So what's the retirement age? Let's drop in the chat. You are the practitioner here. Generally, what's the 65? Okay. All right, interesting. Now, the business is saying, want to know, okay, what percentage of our workforce is close to retirement? Now, we need to know, okay, I think is it general? Now, everybody agree that it is 65. Right? Now, we then need to start planning what percentage of the total workforce that we have are close to 65. Right? So here, we have the age of all our employees, right? So we can just say, okay, from here, we can even say, okay, from data that we have, you can just segregate them to know our aging workforce. So those who are close to 65. So from what age should we pick now? If we want to know, okay, who are those that are close to 65? From my head, I'll say 55 and above. They are close to close to retirement. That's like 10 years. So we're looking at those who are within that age. Or we are looking at 60. So let's agree. So what age should we determine as very close to retirement? Since we all agree that retirement age is 65. So we can then plan our workforce. So we know, okay, what percentage of the total workforce are close to retirement and what. So we then, okay, from there we can decide, okay, do we need to start bringing in people to understudy them, because these people have they have quite a wide range of experience, right? Now, also, yes, we can say some. We have people saying 65, 60, and lines. In fact, we can even segment to know even what, aside looking at looking at those who are close to retirement, we can decide, okay, what is our workforce? What are the different ages that we have in our workforce? So here now, from this now, I can even do a category of let's say age group. So let me say from here, if I want to know what is the highest age, the lowest age that we have here, I can easily say, what's the minimum? Let me quickly run through this. Okay, I want to see the minimum age that I have here. The minimum that I have is is 32, right? I want to see the maximum age that I have here. Let's see the highest age that we have here using the max function, 74. Wow. Wow. Interesting. So the minimum age that I have is 32, and the maximum that I have is what? Is 64, which means our workforce range between what? 32 and 64. Right. So I can just create an helper column here to say, okay, age category. Okay, so let's just quickly use a small function to then look at, okay, what percent, since the question, what percentage are close to what retirement? You can say, okay, I can say, okay, I can use the if function to say if, since let's agree, people say, let's stay at 60, they are 60. So we want to see if they are close or not. So they are checking their age if they are close to 60 years. So let's say, so our logical studies say we'll test out their age. If the age, right, if it is greater than 60, anybody that's above 60, they are what? They are close to retirement age, right? We're trying to look at, okay, age greater than 60. If it's greater than 60, we can say, okay, close to retirement, right? And comma. If not, what should we say? What? You are still what? What should we call this? The aging, what do we call it? No, okay, then let me see. Okay, let me call this aging workforce. I think I prefer that English. Please borrow me your lingo, aging workforce. Anybody that's above 60 is aging workforce. And if you are less than 60, what should we call this? I think there's a time to say, okay, you are still agile. Borrow me an English, let's drop in the chat. Yes, active, okay. Okay, thank you. Active workforces. Now, active workforce. Now, this helps me to what to quickly categorize. Now, do I have the aging workforce? No. So this is an helper column. That's okay. But I have a derivative column. I can easily look at their age and what I can use from their age. I can determine what workforce they belong to, right? And in analyzing our data, we can see now. Let's see. Can see now we are now divided between active or aging workforce. Now, in analyzing our data, right, we can use different tools in analyzing data. Excel is one of the tools that we can use to analyze our data. Microsoft Power BI is one of the tools that we can use to analyze our data. We have what? We have Tableau. We have quite a number of tools that we can use, right? But I'm very sure HR people, we are used to Excel, or pardon me if that's is a fallacy of its generalization, but I just want to bring it home to something that we all are used to, so that what is not, we're not building castle in the air, so we can all relate with this. So that being said, we can then go ahead to then analyze our data. And in analyzing data in Excel, there are different methods that we can use to analyze data when it comes to Excel. Right, so one of the tools we can use in Excel is, we can use a formula, we use functions in Excel, or we also use what we call the pivot table in Excel. And pivot table easily helps us to quickly summarize our data by just clicking here and there. Our data is summarized. Right, so here we're going to be using pivot table to quickly summarize all the numbers and quickly build a dashboard for us. So here to the pivot table, we go to our insert tab. It can be found, pivot table can be found under the insert tab. All right, so let me even ask us, how many of us know how to use pivot table? Let me ask to the main house, how many of us know how to use pivot table? Let's type in the chat if you have used pivot table before. Oh, fantastic. Let's put in the chat. You know how to, that means you're very good with it. Fantastic. You've used it before. Okay. Now, like I said, there are different ways of doing reporting in Excel, right? We have functions, we can leverage on different functions that we have in Excel. And also we can use pivot tables, another way of doing reporting in Excel. Fantastic. Now, let me now throw a question to all of us. So please, everyone, tell me, pivot table has a limitation. Who can tell me what is the limitation of pivot table? What is the limitation of pivot table in Excel? Let's type in the chat. Who can tell us the limitation of pivot table? Any idea from anyone? Just one person. What is the limitation of pivot table? No. Okay, so let me help us out here. So now with pivot table, it is an interesting tool to quickly analyze and summarize or aggregate our data. So you say, okay, Kate is saying if your data is incorrect, you won't get a correct thing. That's okay. Now, that's an issue. Okay, that's peculiar to all data generally. And for with with pivot table, the major challenge of pivot table is that I know how many of us want to say the number of rows that we have in Excel. I know some of us are thinking in that direction already, but that's not the challenge. The major challenge of pivot table is that it can only work on a single table at a time. So you can only analyze your data when it is on a single table. But the moment you have your data sitting on separate tables, different tables, one table from finance, another table coming from marketing, or from our what we say we have different HR platform. So we have a table coming from one of our HR system, another one coming from another system entirely. Now, doing report across those two tables is a challenge for pivot table. So pivot table will not be able to do that kind of reports. So that's the challenge. And that is actually what gives birth to another way of doing reporting in Excel. And that is what we call it gives birth to a new tool in Excel that is called Power Pivot. How many of us have heard of the word Power Pivot before? Power Pivot in Excel. Power Pivot, if you've heard of it or you have used this before, let's say you. All right, interesting. All right. Okay, yes. So, yes, Power Pivot is actually what? Yes, it's a way of what? It helps us to create a relationship between different tables that we have in Excel so that we can create what we call a data modeling. So at Different Consulting, we actually have a course that actually looks into that, the nitty-gritty, and gives us the opportunity of leveraging on data, analyzing getting a deeper dive on our data. Right? So now let's quickly go and quickly make use of our pivot table to analyze our data. Right. So for us to quickly to automate our data, we need to have a data, and also we need to have where we're actually doing the whole cooking itself. Right. So we go to click on pivot table. When you click on pivot table, it brings up a user face for you, and it's asking me, do I want to do a report in a new worksheet or an existing worksheet? Fine, I need a new worksheet. And then click on OK. Okay, right? Then first question is I want to know what is our staff strength. How many employees do we have in total? Right? All I need to do is so to the right hand side, you will see that I have what is called the pivot table fields. Here under the pivot table fields, I have the list of all columns that is already in my data. They are all represented. All the columns that I have in my data are represented here. So all I just need to do is check the box, tick, and my report is ready. So because of time, I'll just pick employee name. Once I pick employee name, it tells me to it lists out, because it is now. So we also have 4 compartments down here. We have 4 compartments down here. One is the filter that we can use to filter our reports. Filter is to filter our reports. Or columns is basically if you want to arrange your data in columns. And row is if you want to arrange your data in row. We'll see that as we proceed. And value is where we have is where we have any data set that contains number. Right. So here, I'm not interested in seeing the list of all the employees. I just want to count how many employees do we have. So I then come to I can right click on this on any of the employee names and say let's say I'll go to the option that says okay, so all I need to do, let me even do this. Okay, can bring my employee name now to values. Yes, that will basically count it for me. and it shows me this is the total number of employees that we have. We have 311 employees. That's answered the first question. Right, then again, it says we want to see the gender distribution of our employee, right? So what is it? From this 311, how many of them are male and how many are female? So I'll just say, okay, coming back to the data. Again, go to the insert and click on pivot table. Let me show you this first. Instead of new worksheet, I'll say, okay, I have an existing worksheet where I want all my reports to be. And I click go into the sheet 1. Okay, I want my reports to be here, and I click OK. Again, this brings up another pivot table plug for me. And I can say, okay, the employee, the gender, that's sex. I just check the box to give me the list of all the genders that we have, male and female, right? And I can also say, okay, the number of employee, right? I can just say, okay, I have employee ID. I say, count the number of employee that we have. Now we can see, so this is female and this is male. For me to format this number very well, I just highlight the number and do Ctrl+Shift+1. So easily I can see the total number of male that I have and total number of female that I have. But for me, this is not even what I want to do. I want to see, okay, what percentage of our workforce are male and what percentage is female, right? I can just, what will I do? I click on any of the number of my choice, right? So instead of showing the number, I want to show the percentage. Then I'll go to say show value as. And I'm going to be showing value as the percentage of the grand total. And here now, it's going to convert the number to percentage for me. And I have can see we have more female than male. Right. So let me I can also decide to visualize it. So for me to visualize this data in Excel using a chart, right? Easily, I can just what we normally do, because you can go to data, what we do, insert, and say you want to chart. But there's an easier or a faster way to do it in Excel. And that easier way to say Alt F1 on your keyboard. Just press Alt F1 on your keyboard and you have your employee distribution charts. And I can also decide, for most of us, we like the pie or the donut chart. So I can decide to change this chart. This is a column chart, right? So for me to change it, I could just click on it and say, okay, change chart type. And I don't want this column chart. There are different types of chart that we have in Excel. This column chart, I want the pie, but under the pie, we also have what we call the donuts. Then click on OK. Now I'm visualizing my data. Then let me turn on the data label so that we are seeing what each label is. Now we are seeing the color color blue is for female, and color what is this now? I'm not so good with color, so please pardon me. And I can then decide, okay, can now say gender distribution. And see, this is gender distribution. Can decide to make my chart better. Hide this, right? I can change the color of this, that is black, so that I can be can change the color to, if I go to design all the formats, yes. Oh, okay, I can even pick a normal home tab and say, okay, color to white. So it shows very well. You can change that here. Right, so these and many more are it's color orange, sorry. Aside white, black, blue, I don't think I know any other color again. Now, we are trying to we started building something that our management want to see. Then another use case is to say, okay, we're looking at what is the aging workforce, what percentage of our workforce are close to retirement, right? So instead of me going back to the data and say insert and the likes, I can actually quickly leverage on it here. Just highlight this and say copy it, go some steps downward and paste this, right? Then I go back to my pivot table and say, okay, now what I want to see, percentage of my workforce that are close to retirement. So now I don't need the gender. I have the percentage already, but I don't need gender. So I throw this away and go to age category. Now, age category is telling me I have 93% of my workforce is still active, while we only have 6% that are close to that are aging, are close to retirement, right? We can also decide that, okay, we want to do a further that to know, okay, in what department, right? So let's see, to be sure that these people are not concentrated in just one department. So all I can do is, okay, let me move my age to the top here and say department down to row. Now you see now. So this is what you use your column and row for. So I put my age in the column. So this is how it is arranged. And my department in what? In the row. So I can see that what? In terms of aging workforce, this what? We have 4% of production. So production has the highest. That are like 4% of the total workforce in production are, they are what? They are, what's it called? They are already aging, right? So that's where we have the highest. These are many more. We can continue what? Building. So let's see. Another thing is that we can also leverage on AI that we have. Instead of building this ourselves, we can also leverage on the AI that we have in what? But let me just restrict it to what the business want. Just age category and do F1 to quickly create my chart. And to change this chart, I'll do what? Change chart type. I pick pie. And also pick this again. So easily you see what is going on. I mean, can change the color. So white. Whatever is not needed, you remove it. And I'll say what? I call this one aging workforce. And like I was saying, instead of using pivot table every time, we can also leverage an AI that we have in Excel to do this report. We don't need to be doing it ourselves. How do I leverage on AI? And now this is always only going to be available for those who are using Microsoft 365. All I need to do is what? Click anywhere inside the data that I have and ask a question about my data. And before I know, the result is ready. What do I use? Under my home tab, there is a command. This is my home tab now. If I scroll to the extreme right of my home tab, there's a command called analyze data. Analyze data. Even it does it far better than what you can do. If it looks at your data and what, based on data that you have, it tells you to what, bring out insight from the data. Let's click on analyze data. Once I click on this now, it's what, on its own, you quickly take a look at my data and come up with some insightful questions, some insights based on the data that I currently have. It's saying analyze data, then I can see it says what? If I go down, okay, it has helped me to generate some insights based on data that I have here. One I can see here is what, salary and age by management name. If I scroll down again, another one I see is what? Employee ID by salary. I'm seeing, what is this? It's saying salary by sex and citizen. These are some insight that it has brought out from my data. And I have what? It says show all 39 results. So these are helping to generate at least 39 different insights from my data. And I can take a look at them one after the other and say, okay, which one do I want to use and which one am I not interested in? Anyone that actually caught your fancy. For example, now, like department, this is even giving us insight. So it's creating a report that shows department by what? By salary. We're looking at the average salary across the different departments. And it's even telling me that what department production with the position of director of operations has noticeably higher salary. If this is something that actually interests me, I don't need to, all I just need to do is to say, okay, insert pivot chart, and voila, this is done without stress. I have the report already. And in fact, it's even what making use of what is making use of color to actually push this to my attention. Because in analytics, we use color as what? As an attribute to call people's attention. Now I grade out every other one. I want us to focus on the director of operation. And I can see that what this is even giving me insight better than what I can even normally do when I'm analyzing my data on my own. So let's answer one more question. What's the hiring source? The most effective hiring source, exactly. So what's it? So aside the fact that analyze data, we look at my data and analyzed the data for me. I can also what if what all the information it is giving me is they are not what I want. I can also what tell it to do what I want. How do I do that? At the top here, you can see it says ask a question about your data. I can ask a question about my data. Right? So I can say, okay, here and I can type and say, what is the most effective hiring source? Right? And I hit enter. That's the question I'm asking about my data. And what has happened? He said what is telling me that what Indeed has what? He said top recruitment source by data fire is what? Indeed. And we have 54 people, right? We have hired 54 people. In fact, it's even giving me some suggestion to say top recruitment source by cell count of data or top 5 recruitment source by this. So if I can actually pick any of them and it gives me what? The top 5. Right? Or I can also tweak this to say, okay, let me ask a direct question to say, okay, I want to see number of hires by hiring source. Once I hit enter, it gives me, now goes through all the different sources that I have. Right? And gives me how many people have we were actually brought in in the past. Now it has given me Indeed actually top the list, followed by LinkedIn and so on. And in fact, I can say, okay, now this is giving me this in a table. I can also decide to say, okay, no, I don't want this only in table. I can decide, okay, I don't want it in the table. Say, okay, number of hires by hiring source. I can specify the kind of chart that I want it to give me. I can say, okay, in bar charts. Then as I hit enter, on its own, let's see, on its own, okay, bar charts, number of hire by hiring source in bar charts. So let's see, is it giving us this here? Come in. So you can also specify the kind of what? Okay, the bar charts. Let me do this. Right, I say insert. You see, it creates a table for me, but what I want is a bar. So all you just need to do is what? Give it the instruction. Okay, I can come here. Where do I have it? The data now can give, okay, let me use another chart. Let me say in pie. Right, this one is not listening. Okay, let me look at another question that says, okay, I want to see the what? Marital status of employee. Marital status of employee. Right, it gives me, what is this? Marital description. Okay, it's called marital description here. Marital description of our employee. And these are many more questions. Okay, marital description is written together. Now we say, okay, let me say employee. And here say employee by marital description. Right, and I hit enter. Then what? Am I making any mistake here? Marital description, yes. It's not case sensitive actually, but let me see. All right, so this is not listening to me. So that's AI for your times, listen at times. Oh, it has cell count of employee name by what? By marital description. That's giving me what I want, right? And I can just say what? Insert the pivot table, and on its own, it creates what? It creates this. So these are the what different ways what we can leverage on Excel to quickly analyze our data. And we can decide, okay, let's now bring this together. Let's say I now want to create my dashboard quickly because of time. Right, to say, okay, I don't want to bring all my charts together, right, in just one page. I can just come here. How many do I have here? Okay, let me create 1 or 2 more so that we have enough charts. Again, what's our hiring trend over time? Yes, let me do the hiring trend over time. And I just need to just come here, copy this, and paste this here, right? Okay, this is not even what is it? Okay. So let me come to this. Where okay, sheet 1. Okay, this is my normal pivot table. So I can pick this and say, okay, I want to see what my hiring trend over time. Throw this away. Over time, what are we using? Date of hire. I pick the date of hire. Now, date of hire is now showing me what? This is 2006 down to 2018. But let's say I don't even want to show this in percent. I want to show it as a normal number, right? I can just right click on the number and say show value as, then I pick no calculation, don't do any calculation. Then it gives me this as what? As a number. And I can see the number of people we are hiring across what? The number of years that we have, right? Then another thing, no, employee, no, it's summing it. No, this employee ID, because it's a number, it's summing it. No, it should not sum it. It should count. So to do that, I will right click on this and say, okay, I don't want you to sum. Rather, what I want you to do is to what? Is to count. Because that column is a what? Is a value column. I change this to count. And now easily I can see what is going on. And another thing is that what the moment you bring in this, because it's a date column, Excel can help me break this date column into different layers or different hierarchy of dates. From it has extracted year for me. It has extracted quarter for me. It has also extracted month and also date. This date means what? Day. So that is why in front of each year that I have here now, I have what? A plus sign that can do a drill down. In 2016, we only did in Q1. That's in January. In 2008, you can see we are across all the different what? The different quarter. Right? But for me, what I'm interested in is to see what? I just want to see the years. Right. Also, I'll just stick to this year and remove quarter, remove months, also remove the dates itself. So I have just year. Now I'm seeing what we are doing across the year. Right. So to then do this in a what? In a chart, I do Alt F1 to quickly create my chart. I do Alt F1. And again, because this is actually a time series analysis. And when you're doing a time series analysis, the best type of visual to use is what? Is the line chart. So I can just change this chart type to say, okay, right click on it and say, change the type of chart that you're giving me. Because by default, what did I pick? Okay. By default, it's going to give us column chart when you do Alt F1. But here I can let's say change to the line chart, and we can pick any line chart of our choice. Right, and I say, okay, now it has now changed it. So I don't need this. Here I can rename this, call it hiring trend. Hiring trend by year or over the years. You see, over the years. Now, this is me now using what? Data. Idle feed buttons on charts. So this is me now using data to what? To answer business question. And they're saying, what is there any insight? The question is saying, for over time, I think any particular insight? Yes, exactly. We can easily see that what? In the year 2011, we have what? We hired people the most. That's where we have the highest number of hires. That's where we have what? About in 2011, what do we have? We have 83 hires, right? Now, we might also want to now drill down to say, okay, what actually happened in the year 2011? So all this is what is giving us insight as to what people data is telling us. In fact, another thing you can see that one thing that if you notice, when I want us to know the actual value for this, I have to come here and say, okay, what's 2011? But instead of having this y-axis, I can make this chart to have its own number on its own. That is, each line we have is actual figure. What do? All I need to do is click on the chart element, which is the plus sign, and say data label. Then, once I have my data label, then this axis is no longer needed because both axes cannot coexist, right? So I can just say delete this. And again, this number, I don't want it in a decimal place. So I can highlight, do your number and say, okay, I want to reduce it to ordinary whole number. Yes, so now easily we are seeing what is going on. And this grid line, let me just remove the grid line. Now we are seeing what is going on in the business. You can see what in 2011, we actually brought in 83 new people into the business. Now we can then also do that to say, okay, what happened in that particular year? So these and many more. Okay, let's look at average salary. Okay, let's just because of time. Right, so we have different charts here, so we can then bring everything together to our dashboard. So when I come to my report here, I can say, okay, let me give this, let me call this employee distribution. Okay, what is even the person? What do they want us to look at? You see, we want to look at what the business would like to look at. We have been tasked exploring database of what? Talent management. Okay. So we can call it talent management or just give it a befitting title. Say employee, let me say employee distribution. I give them title of HS actually. So to create my dashboard, I'm going to increase this to, let me say 28. Yeah, I can decide to bolding it. Whatever you want to do, you can even decide to underline it if you like. Just do Ctrl U to underline if that's what you want. You can give it color and also with the color. So now I need to know make my chart an interactive one. So I'll come here and bring in all the chart that I have here. Ctrl A to highlight all the chart that I have. Then Ctrl X to cut all of them and bringing all of them down to my dashboard. So I can arrange how the look and feel of my dashboard or my report now. Okay. Now this is practically This is practically, so I will answer all the questions. I can see questions in the chat. Don't worry, I'm going to answer all the questions. Now this is you creating the dashboard. Right, trying to okay, we don't have okay, and this as well can expand. Now this, so I'm using data to answer the business questions. Right, okay, I have 3 here. Okay, I have some here. Let me just take this one as well, then bring it here. So you can actually arrange your, this thing better. Okay, this is your real estate. This is you managing your real estate now. This is me managing my real estate. Let me see, do I have any other charts? Okay, let me bring this to. No, this has been filtered already. Let me see, okay. All. Let me remove this filter. So we see by the different departments that we have. All right. So we can add our filter later. This is not okay. I can then bring that here because it's long. And say, okay, this is long. I want to make it long. So let's now say this is everything I've been able to come up with, right? So I can also bring how many employees do I have? So I can put that, I just bring in a shape to say, okay, let me just put that in a shape. Okay, then say equals to, let me go and reference, what do we have here? The 311, I'll just say, okay, if I click on this now, might not give me what I want, right? So what we normally do is to say, okay, come into this side and say, instead of you referencing this particular cell directly, you can come under or you come beside it and change it. If I come under here, this is A5, then I can change this A5 to A4. Or I come here and say this is B4, I can change this B to then C. So anyone will work. C, then enter. Now I will have what? The number. Let me see. Let me make it big. Yeah, C4. Okay, it's here. I can set down to make this number big. And color white. What do I have? No, it's not being. Just to quickly pick the number that we have here is, okay, it's not C actually. It should be A. Imagine. A was A4. Yeah. How was I even picking C before? Okay. Can then what? Nope. Can easily highlight the number that I have here. So that I want to make it big. Increase it to, let's say 16. Can bold it, give it color white, centralize. You can do anything you want actually. So I can also decide to then what? Reduce this. Okay. Now let me make it bigger from 18. Let's say 24. Yep. Okay. 24 might be fine. And I can what? Add a comment to say number of employee. Right? Now, I'm coming there. Now let's now say, okay, as WVG to remove what? The whole, to remove grid line. Right? Now, I want this report to be what? To be able to filter. I want to be able to what? Make it interactive. So I can bring in what we call the slicer into this report by clicking on any chart of my choice. And I go to the pivot chart analyze. Right? Go to pivot chart analyze and say insert slicer. So slicers are just like the name implies, we used to slice and dice our report. So in order not to make this whole report static, because what we have here are just static numbers, right? But we want to make it what? I want to make it dynamic. We want to make it, want to be able to slice, filter our report. Basically, we can use what? Any fields here to filter our report. We can use department as a slicer. So if I click on OK now for department, it's going to bring all the departments for me. Look at the departments. And one thing you will notice now is if I click on admin offices now, it's only filters this chart alone. That is because this is the chart that I use in bringing in this what? The slicer. All I then need to do to make the chart, this slicer filter all the reports, right? Let me clear first. To make it filter all the reports, I click on the slicer itself and go to the tab. A new tab. I will have a new tab called the slicer tab. Under the slicer tab, I go to what we call the report connection. So now I need to connect this to all the reports I've created so far. And you're going to see the list of all the pivots table report I've created so far, right? Or then it's so kindly is what is selecting, is only filtering the pivot table 2, which is this one. So I just need to tick all other boxes. All other boxes. Then click on OK. Now, if I click on admin now, all the reports will then be filtered down to only admin. If I click on executive office, it filters down to executive because we have just, it tells me how many people do we have in that department. This is 1. We have only 1 person in the executive. If I go to what? IT now, it shows me we have 50 people in IT, and this is the breakdown of these 50 people. Now, to make this now look better, I will then what? Instead of making it look vertical like this, I can change the orientation from what? Under my slicer now. How many departments? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So I want to make it look like a button that will spread across. Then I'll say, okay, the column now, instead of 1 column, I'll make it 6 column and hit enter. It will then be reduced. So I will then reduce the size here and extend it to the right. So I have the list of all the departments like a button now. So now, if I then want to what, analyze my data, can I say, okay, my click already, if I clear the slicer, This is telling me we have 311 employees in total, right? And in gender distribution, we have 43 to 56, having more female than male. And our hiring, the aging workforce, we're looking at what? The hiring trend, the number of people per department, right? Now, I can now do a drill down to department by department. For example, now if I look at the admin office, we have only 9 people in admin office, and we have what? 66% of them are what? Are female, and 33% are male. And then now all of them they are all of active work. That means they are less than 60 years of age. And over time, this is how we've hired people into that department. And these are the different levels that we have in that particular department. Now, where's work of slicer? Let me go to production. That's where we have the highest workforce, right? We have 209 people in that department, and we can see the distribution. We can see that in this department now, we have the aging workforce are 6%. 6% of the total workforce are aging. We can then also want to do a drill down to, okay, this aging workforce, what role are they occupying? So that we know we start grooming people for that role. Or we want to look at our sales. So when you click on sales, it's filter down your report to down to sales only, and you see how they are. In fact, if I click on production, and you see these are the director of operations and the likes. So also, if I look at we have the software engineer. This is what is going on in that department. So this is how you can use Excel to build an interactive dashboard. You can build it using pivot table, or you leveraging on the AI that we have in the Excel, which is the analyze data. Right? So, and we can also make your slicers and the likes. You can beautify your report. So all you just need to do is have the data, and your report is going to be ready. In fact, when you have a survey like the survey I deployed, so you can have a survey and you connect to your survey directly, and as people are filling the survey, you are seeing the response in your analytics. Right, you just connect to, because to every survey that we deploy, there's actually an Excel file that runs behind it. So you just need to do that Excel file is what you need to connect to, build your report, and as people are filling the survey, then you see the response. You have your analytics is updated. Your report is being updated based on people's response. So this is how we can use people data to make critical decisions when it comes to the business, and also to align with the business goals, so that the business can make critical decision towards its operation. So because of time, I'm going to be stopping here and now, and to take your questions. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you so much, sir. This was an excellent, super excellent session. Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to take a few quick questions. Please raise your hands if you like to ask, so that we can authorize you to unmute and ask your questions. And if you also want to type your questions very quickly, fast fingers, you can also do that. We'd like to take a few questions as we wrap up this excellent session. Thank you so much, Sadiq Yusuf from the Brown Consulting, for your generosity, magnanimity, and largeness of heart. Omolade, you have a question? I'm trying to look for your name.
Okay, so I can read some questions that I already have in the chat as I was presenting.
Yes, you can go ahead and respond, sir.
Okay, so I have a question that says, okay, the analyze data option you use, it is a feature in Excel apart. Yes, analyze data is actually a feature in Excel that is even up. So it does its own report on its own using pivot table, but it's a standalone feature on its own in Excel that basically looks into the data that we have and analyze our data based on the kind of data that you have. And you saw that earlier on, when I click on analyze, based on data that I have, it generates about 39 reports for me on its own. Generate 39 reports, so it's leveraging AI that we have in Excel. But this feature is only available to those who are using Microsoft 365. If you are not using Microsoft 365, you will not be able to make use of the analyze. And we also have the Copilot as well. So to basically help you to quickly get an insight from your data. Yeah, somebody asked that this is in Excel. Can this also be done in Power BI? Like I was saying earlier on, Power BI was actually carved out of Excel. I said earlier, I asked us a question. I said a question of what is the limitation of pivot table. The pivot table can only do report on just one report at a time, right? So, but with Power BI, so that's what actually led to the third way of doing reporting in Excel, and which is called the combination of pivot table, Power Pivot in Excel, and DAX. So those three tools, yeah, we can use them in Excel to create our reports. And that tool is actually what Microsoft infused together and add sprinkle of some flavors, some coloring, some sugar and Maggi and the like to it to create another standalone product. And that standalone product today is what is referred to as Microsoft Power BI, which is to tell you that what Power BI actually stems from Excel. So in long and short, this can be done in Power BI as well. Yes. So Microsoft 365 is actually a license-based, so it requires subscription. You buy, and you have access to it. And with Microsoft 365, you now have access to a wide range of functions that are not even in your own, all the free Excel that we had before. So a lot of functions like the sequence function, there are different functions that we can use. We have the sequence, we have all this now, all the array for different array functions that we have. So if I say text now, text join. We have sequence. If I want to quickly just, generate a list of 100 for me. I want to write a list of 1 to 100. I can just quickly say sequence and I put 100 inside it. What does it do? When I say enter, on its own, it quickly generates number from 1 to 100 for me. Can you see? So if I want to generate 20, I just put 20 inside that bracket. And I have my list of 1 to 20 ready. And we have we have unique as well as an array function and so on like that. So they give us room. In fact, because as a result of the this tool that we're using, we can now if I go here to do deeper analysis, if I come to the formula tab now, you can see that we now have Python in Excel. You can run your Python script directly from Excel. For those who want to do deeper analysis without leaving Excel, you can write your Python. Yes. I would answer the question. Yeah, it can be done in Excel, in Power BI and Tableau. So any other question? These are the 2 questions that I have in the chat.
Malade, if you want to ask a question, you can unmute now. If your question has not been addressed already. If you don't unmute now, we'll assume that your question has been responded to already. All right. Thank you so much. Yet again, thank you so much, Omalade. I see your response now. You know what we do at this intersection, at any of our webinars? We unmute and voice our appreciation. Let's thank sincerely Mr. Yusuf. Ladies and gentlemen, we can unmute now as we appreciate our facilitator.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Very insightful section. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. God bless you, sir. Very, very insightful section, sir.
Really insightful. God bless you.
Thank you, sir. God bless you, sir.
It's an honor and a privilege to be among our movers and shakers of the industry. Thank you.